Hi, I wanted to make a video for one of the midterm problems that was particularly difficult for people, just so you can see a solution. And it was really just finding a derivative for a function that was given, but it is a little bit tricky to compute the derivative of this particular function. There's a chain rule, you have to use the chain rule twice, and you have to use the product rule, so there's quite a bit going on. But I wanted to walk you through the basic steps. When I want to do dy dx, take the derivative of this function of y with respect to x. Well, the outermost function is this exponential. Basically, the last thing that you would do in order of operations is do the exponential power here. So that's the first thing that you end up differentiating. You differentiate the exponential part, which is actually always itself times the derivative of its argument, or its inside piece. So that's my first step here, is I differentiate the exponential, and I'm left with the derivative of the inside, which is x times the square root of 7x minus 6. And the next step for me is to rewrite the square root as the 1/2 power, so that I can use the power rule. But first of all, look, notice that x times this square root function is a product, so I'm actually going to use the product rule when I do this. And notice I put big parentheses around it. And the derivative of x times the square root part plus x times the derivative of the square root part. So there's my product rule happening. Derivative of x is just 1, so that's just 1 times the square root, and I put it back in radical notation at this point for myself. And the second term is x times the derivative of that square root, which ends up being 1/2 from the power rule. 7x minus 6 to the minus 1/2 power, I subtracted 1 from the power, times 7, because I differentiated the inside piece, the underneath the square root. This is the second instance of the chain rule. Now at this stage, on this line right here, third from the bottom, we're actually done. We've taken the derivative of that function, and I'd be happy with that answer if you would have, an unwritten test or something like that. I'd be fine with this answer. Just to show you the simplification steps, I did 2 more things just to make it, frankly, just to make it look nicer. It might be a little bit more useful in this form if I had to try to find critical points or something like that. This function doesn't have any critical points, by the way. But you might want to clean it up if you actually needed to use the function. And to do that, basically, I rationalize the denominator, which is one of the few times I ever do that, right here. And then I factored out the square root 7x minus 6 and simplified the remaining fraction, and that's how I got here. All right, and it worked out just good.